Hey there, today I want to talk to you about a topic that will make you a much better programmer, make it easier for you to get things done, and really just save you a lot of time. It's a very important lesson that took me many years to learn, and I've seen a lot of developers fail with it. Now, this was originally going to be a lesson on tooltips. I wanted to show how you can put tooltips over items and abilities and all that kind of stuff, and make it just kind of work across your game no matter what type of game you're building. But while I was building it, I came to a quick realization. And I want to just, before we get into it, ask a quick question. In this multiplayer game where you can run around, pick up items, move them around, drop them on the ground, pick them up, and even like go give them to other players and stuff, how many interfaces do you think I have in my project? Just put your best guess down in the comments, and if you don't have any idea, just hit the thumbs up button and we'll get started. So today we're going to talk about a subject that I learned about while I was driving to and from work. This is something that used to come up all the time on my favorite podcast, .NET Rocks. I know the GameDev show should be my favorite podcast, but since I talk on it, .NET Rocks is probably still my favorite that I listen to that's not my own. Anyway, continuing on, one of the key things that I used to hear, especially Richard, talk about quite often, and when he's talking to guests, was the fact that things end up being over-engineered often. And there's a very simple, very straightforward term that he would always just put forward and kind of simplify and shut things down, which was YAGNI. YAGNI, short for you ain't going to need it, or you aren't going to need it, or however the hell you want to say it. But the core of the principle is this. Don't build things for what you think you might need in the future. Don't engineer things for what you think is coming down the road or what possibilities may appear. Build things for what you actually need now. Now that might sound simple, but I think this quote here really nails it. It says, developers are drawn to complexity like moths to a flame, often with the same outcome. And it's very true. It's very easy to get excited about, oh, we could add in these new features, we could plug in stuff, we can make it extensible so everybody can go modify and change all this stuff. But until you have the problem where people actually want to modify and change any of those things, any systems that you add that allow you to make these changes in the future just make your project more complex. If you have an abstraction that there's only one implementation of, there's zero need for that abstraction. It's just they're going to confuse you and make it a little bit more complicated for everybody else in there. Now, there might be this idea, oh, we have this abstraction so that, in 5 years when the team suddenly blows up and all these people come in, we can change things out. Don't worry about that now. Worry about that later. Worry about those problems when they come, because you're going to find that if you solve problems way in advance by guessing what the problem's going to be and what the solution's going to look like, you always solve it with the wrong solution. Then you end up having to go back, rework that problem or rework that solution, or try to work the problem into your existing solution. And it's drastically harder than if you just had a setup where you're like, hey, okay, we need to implement this new extensibility point, whether it's tooltips or swapping out our data storage for our saving or whatever it is. As long as your code is relatively clean and you're keeping things isolated and you're not just making a giant mess of things, you don't need to have those abstractions in place in advance. You can put them in when you need them and then make them match with exactly what your use case is. The key point here is just to remember that your software, your code doesn't really matter, especially when it comes to games. Games tend to get built, shipped, released, and maybe a couple of updates. The code doesn't matter nearly as much as the fact that the thing is finished, done, and out there. I don't know anybody who's super proud of the code that they wrote on some project. I know a lot of people that are super proud of the project that they released, got out there, and put out in front of people. So I just wanted to remind everybody again that if you're looking at writing something, you're looking at building out a system, make sure that you actually need it and that you're going to use it now or in the very, very short-term future. I mean, if you're going to obviously implement it next week, then sure. But if you're not going to do it right away, don't overcomplicate things. Keep it simple. Get your project moving as fast as possible. And most important, make progress. You want to make forward progress on your projects constantly, not just add extra complexity and layers that don't do anything else for you at the current time. Now, if this resonates with you, if you've done things like this before, please just hit the thumbs up, drop a comment down below and let me know. And if not, drop a comment about that too. I'm kind of curious, like if you think that I'm totally wrong about this. And if you want to see a video on how to do the tooltips, so you'd be able to do tooltips over all these things, just drop a comment. I will probably get one of those done very soon, and assuming that somebody actually wants to see it. And if you want to see how to build out a full multiplayer game with all this kind of stuff, make sure you check out the multiplayer mastery course. There'll be a link in the description below, or to go to game.courses/mm. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.